Well, top of the morning to anybody who's out there. Good morning. Yes, it's a sleepy little morning, a little overcast. Very common for the Portland area here. Ah, you can't see it. Anyway, as I mentioned yesterday on the OC, we're going to be just sharing 20 minutes, I guess, of each morning for the next for this next 4 weeks. Um, I'm kind of, admittedly, a novice in the area of kind of celebrating patterns or cycles of holiday tradition, especially something that doesn't just kind of come on in just one big shot and one burst and then it's kind of over. This is a long, steady, sustained burn. 4 weeks. As I mentioned to you, well, it's kind of been in the church tradition for years and years, millennia, going back to roughly about the fourth century, dude. And so here we are. This is yesterday was the first day of Advent. There's 4 weeks leading up to Christmas Eve. There are kind of two little seasons that get kind of what do you call it? Kind of knit together, and the Advent being the kind of the run up to Christmas, and then Christmas, which actually kicks off another at least another week to 10 days, and in the old calendar culminates in another little holiday called Epiphany. So more than you need to know for our purposes. We're just going to take some time each morning, and I actually have a little book I'm following. It's a little devotional. The title is "God is in the Manger," and it's a culmination, a little anthology of writings done by Dietrich Bonhoeffer on the theme of Advent. So hold on just a second because I left it in the other room. Yes, yes, here it is. Beautiful little book. It's got a reading for each day, so there's seven for each week. And as I mentioned yesterday, there's typically four themes for each week. They traditionally kind of go, I believe they go like hope, peace, love, and prophecy with four candles. So I'm going all in. I'm going to light my what is it? The candle for this week. In keeping with our devotional, we're actually started off the first week of Advent with the theme of mystery. So I am lighting our mystery candle. So let's see if I can capture this here. Just sliding on over to where's our candles? There we are. I went out and bought the four Advent candles, and then there we go. And the one in the middle, obviously, is for Christmas. Christmas tree there. All right. So back on topic. Like I said, I'm a novice here in this department. This is my first run through in terms of wanting to practice the rhythms, the devotions, the meditations around this historical season. This really, it's a Christian tradition, like I said, that goes back many years, and here it is, just trying to want to recover one of our heirlooms, as it were, and see if we can't find some, let's just say, so kind of restore some embers to this old tradition. I'm going to read, like I said, from this devotion, and then I want to share some other little few thoughts. We'll probably be done here in about 10-15 minutes. Um, like I said, we're on the theme of mystery, so let me find that. It is actually in this one, the second week. And day one, uh, respect for the mystery. This is, again, from Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He writes, the lack of mystery in our modern life is our downfall and our poverty. A human life is worth as much as the respect it holds for the mystery. We retain the child in us to the extent that we honor the mystery. Therefore, children have open, wide awake eyes because they know that they are surrounded by the mystery. They're not yet finished with this world. They still don't know how to struggle along and avoid the mystery as we do. We destroy the mystery because we sense that here we reach the boundary of our being, because we want to be Lord over everything and have it at our disposal. And that's just what we cannot do with the mystery. Living without mystery means knowing nothing of the mystery of our own life, nothing of the mystery of another person, nothing of the mystery of the world. It means, excuse me, it means passing over our own hidden qualities and those of others and the world. It means remaining on the surface, taking the world seriously only to the extent that it can be calculated and exploited, and not going beyond the world of calculation and exploitation. Living without mystery means not seeing the crucial processes of life at all, and even denying them. So, mystery, it's again just it's all, like I said, it's all new to me. So I'm trying to I'm going to try and be careful to I don't know, just to figure out what some of these real basic terms mean. Let's start with the fact that Advent means arrival, the coming into, like the arrival of a friend, a guest, the coming into, and now things are different because here we have this person. So now that kind of makes sense, right? Because in light of Christmas, you think, oh, that was 2,000 years ago. That was the babe in the manger. Yes and no, right? As I mentioned to you, one of the books I'm reading on the subject, I think really aptly describes the whole spirit, the concept of this season. And the title of the book, I'm just opening up on my Kindle here. It's brilliant, really very well written, very thorough. The title is Advent. Subtitle: The Once and Future Coming of Jesus Christ. So, what is this mystery, and what does it have to do with a coming or an arrival? Again, I think people connect the first dot to, oh, I see. There was that promised child. There was that, excuse me, there was that baby born of Mary and Joseph, right? So we think we've connected it, but really it's not true. If you only have one of the dots, you're not in the Advent season yet. Again, to read the subtitle: Advent, the once and future coming. So what is this? It's the once and future. This is the time of Advent between the one who came and the one who is yet to come. And it's not just whether or not, oh yeah, I believe that. I think I believe in that. Something about, maybe the second coming. No, not so quick, right? Advent is, as my friend Bob likes to say, marinating, meditating, living into the whole, how would you put it, the whole mystery of what does this mean? What does it mean that God isn't through with us, and not just us kind of personally and in our heart, but down to he's not through with us with this planet. He's not through with making his claim on it, first as creator, then as redeemer, and then ultimately as Lord of lords and King of kings. Again, let's be careful with the terms. We don't even have kings anymore, right? We govern ourselves. Yeah, right. How's that working for us? So the bookends of this Christ event was the, what is, again, I have to remember it, how it goes. The once, it starts with the word a phrasing it doesn't come to mind easily. The once and future coming. That's Advent. The once, looking back. The future, obviously, here we are, now but not yet. I believe there's a phrase from Lord of the Rings called we're living in the time between the times. And the thing about living in those times is that it's very reminiscent of the times in which, excuse me, in which Israel found itself living in a kind of waiting room. In fact, the word for it was exile or bondage. First, obviously, God found that nation, this little nation of virtually slaves, under the power of the Egyptian empire, under the fist and the power of Pharaoh. And God made a claim on those people and said, you know what? I'm taking them out of that situation. I'm adopting them as my own special people. So that, of course, is, we talk about myth. Can we restore the role of myth without any shame or fear that we're lapsing into the vernacular use of myth now means something not true? That's just, can I say this? The definition of myth is something that is not true, is not true. And I'll show you a few examples of what I'm trying to say. And this, again, feels a little uneasy for me. I've been putting these things together for a while. I'm not the first one. Again, C.S. Lewis is the master. He never divorced his imagination from his faith. He never, in fact, he came right through the door with the help of a couple of his friends, as I mentioned yesterday, the door of myth and how God speaks in it to us through these great myths, these profound stories that call to the deep chambers of our heart. Deep calls to deep. And as I mentioned yesterday, in defense of myth, I said, we have a myth as a traditional story, especially one concerning the early history of a people or explaining some natural or social phenomenon. Here, this is fun. Typically involving supernatural beings, supernatural events, supernatural phenomenon. So again, we all have some myth, but I think we've lived in a world now that says, that's for entertainment. Then we got our facts, and we got our science, and we got our religion, and that's in the realm of serious truth, objective truth. So the modern mind has actually been nurtured unto that. Your mind, mine, okay? Not to do a full, deep dive on the philosophy, but you end up becoming what you marinate in, what you soak in. And so why am I having this conversation? Because I believe when you encounter the stories of Christ in the Gospels, you're encountering God's story, but it has the same outline, the same texture as it shouldn't be new to us. It shouldn't be something sterile or just kind of, religiously rigid. Let me give you an example here. First of all, as Bonhoeffer was just reminding us, let's be reminded, children maintain this sense of mystery. They're not intimidated. In fact, they enjoy and embrace and delight in the fact that everything is so awesome and adventurous and new. We, of course, as adults, just run it. We want to get that out of our souls as quickly as possible so we can get down to the serious business of controlling things. Calculation and exploitation, he writes. So, again, for those of you who may have either not considered this or even have, in hearing me talk about it, maybe think, hey, where are you going with this? I mean, the Bible and the scriptures and the gospel, that's all its own world. Don't mess with it. Well, it was God himself who refers to his own story as a mystery. Okay? In fact, I believe one of the little devotional notes within our devotion for today is this. So let me read this before I dip into a little Lewis, and then we'll be done. This is from Colossians, a letter to the church at Colossae from the Apostle Paul, who writes to them, I want their hearts, speaking of the people in the church, I want their hearts to be encouraged. I want them to be united in love so that they may have all the riches of assured understanding. All the riches of assured understanding. Well, how does that work? I want them, he says, to have the knowledge of God's mystery. There it is. The knowledge of a mystery. So we'll unpack this, but Paul is saying, I want their hearts to be encouraged. I want them to be united in love. And I want them to have all the riches of assured understanding. That is the knowledge of God's mystery. That is, he says, Christ himself, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Mystery, treasures, hidden. You see that? Those are concepts we understand. Treasures, hidden, mystery. And these are the themes that haven't changed. This is what was forged in the original what we call the Christ event, and what continues to be our myth, our story. It explains our origins in the same way that the book of Exodus explains the origins of Israel. And we parallel that story in so much as here the church has a very similar, we're living in a similar time as Israel did, who found themselves subsequently, not after they were rescued by Yahweh, they found themselves back in bondage again, back in exile. I submit to you that first, that the mystery which God gave us was the first true sacrament. And I wasn't raised a Catholic, but sacrament has to do with what are the sacred things that are hidden in mystery. That's actually kind of how the word works, sacrament. What are the sacred things that are hidden right here in the earth, kind of like Easter eggs? And Paul says, I want them to know what those treasures are. I want them to have the knowledge of God's mystery. How do you discover mystery? Well, you have to kind of use your imagination sometimes. You have to kind of look for things in places that you wouldn't normally see them. And trust me, some barn in the middle of a little what do you call it, podunk town in the Middle East 2,000 years ago, in the middle of the night, with a bunch of farm animals, isn't the most obvious place to find the mystery of God. Let's be honest. The problem is if we've rehearsed that story long enough, we're like, oh yeah, of course we know where it's at. It's over there in the barn. It's hidden in the... But God is in the manger is not an obvious reality. It's not. It's only for those of us who have lost the mystery, lost the imagination, to realize that that's God's language. To give you, as I like to do, where do you find, how do we find these kind of, what do they call them, kind of comparisons, corollaries in some of our modern myths? Some of the two best modern myth writers has been C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. They were also, as I mentioned yesterday, colleagues, peers as professors of literature, and I think Tolkien was of language. So one wrote the epic series Lord of the Rings, the other one so many beloved books, notably the children's series called the Narnia. No, that's the name of this, Narnia series. So how is it that these men of high intellect end up making these huge contributions in the realm of fantasy, in the realm of what you would call our modern myths? Well, let me give you an example here, and like I said, this will be it. I want to show you how Gandalf appearing to Frodo. I'll do it from memory. I won't read it. Well, it's good. It's a good quote. Here you go. You have the humble Bilbo Baggins. So this is going back to the Hobbit, and he's sitting around the Shire, drinking his tea, smoking his pipe, and along comes this. Well, I'll just read it. Along comes a figure. All right. All that the unsuspecting Bilbo saw that morning was an old man with a staff. He had a tall pointed blue hat, a long gray cloak, a silver scarf, over which his long white beard hung down below his waist, and immense black boots. Good morning, said Bilbo, and he meant it. The sun was shining, the grass was very green, but Gandalf looked at him from under long bushy eyebrows that stuck out further than the brim of his shady hat. What do you mean? He said. Do you wish me a good morning, or mean that it is a good morning, whether I want it or not? Or that you feel good this morning, or that it is a morning to be good on? All of them at once, said Bilbo, and a very fine morning for a pipe of tobacco out of doors. Into the bargain. If you have a pipe about you, sit down and have a fill of mine. There's no hurry. We have all the day before us. Then Bilbo sat down on a seat by his door, crossed his legs, and blew out a beautiful gray ring of smoke that sailed up into the air without breaking, and floated away over the hill. The way this ends up, as I'll just jump ahead a little bit, it goes on to say, Gandalf says again, "Good morning," he said at last. We don't want any adventures here, thank you. And oh, I'm sorry, I did skip too far. First, Gandalf poses. Bear with me here. He says, "But I have no time to blow smoke rings this morning. I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure that I'm arranging, and it's very difficult to find anyone." So I would suggest that this mystery, which you see, this myth, this great story, in the same way that you get Luke Skywalker, with this transmission and this holographic image of this woman wearing this great flowing space gown, and she says, "What is it? Help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're our only help." You have these figures, these supernatural events, and then a message goes out. Now, you tell me if you're offended or if you don't see the obvious correlation between our modern myths, these men of great intellect, great imagination, and great and Christian minds. They're shaped by the fact that they know that of all the myths, there is this one true myth, as Lewis calls it. And here I read to you an excerpt from the oft-quoted nativity scene. It's the one where the angels are on the hillside. "Now there were shepherds nearby living out in the field, keeping guard over the flock at night, and an angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were absolutely terrified. But the angel said to them, 'Do not be afraid. Listen carefully, for I proclaim to you good news that brings great joy to all the people. Today your Savior is born in the city of David. He is Christ the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in strips of cloth and lying in a manger.'" Two things. It kicks off the story of the Christ story is kicked off as my definition of myth was, with supernatural events and beings. As Gandalf comes alongside, he says, "I'm looking for somebody for an adventure," or this, kind of country space kid runs into a space wizard. They both obviously, that's funny because Obi-Wan was kind of a space wizard. And here you have angelic beings making a proclamation to these farmhands or these shepherd guys. And of course, everyone's shocked, Bilbo's taken aback, says, "I don't want any adventures here." And Luke Skywalker says, "Hey, I can't get involved. I've got to get back to the farm." And here are these shepherds. It says, we're just terrified. They're just shocked. But here is the common thread. Here comes the nature of telling a true story. And there is nothing about myth that means untrue. It's just a story getting at some deep, profound wells in the human heart that God put there. And it culminates in this. Angels describing an adventure that God has had in his mind from eternity. Angels proclaiming the mystery and telling them where the treasure is hidden. Get this. An angel of the Lord appeared, and the angel said, "Don't be afraid. We have listened carefully, for we proclaim to you good news that brings great joy to all people." And then they said, here's the key, the clue to the mysteries. Today, a Savior is born in the city of David. He's Christ the Lord. And here's the sign for you. You'll find a baby wrapped in strips of cloth lying in a manger. Now, hundreds of babies were probably born that day. And yet, only when you are given a message, only when you're invited into an adventure, only when the curtain is pulled back and you're invited into this incredible story that has to do that God has from all eternity has had a story, a myth that includes restructuring the universe around a child. And we're invited into this mystery, but you have to come like a child. You have to kind of revisit some of these, well, quite frankly, revisit the gospel story, revisit the whole message that somebody has heard our cry and somebody has taken an interest. In fact, somebody has intervened. The God of heaven and earth, but it's a mystery because it's only for those who seek. Seek and you shall find. There's a little bit of hide and seek with God. That's the mystery part. The sacrament, that which is from heaven, is hidden in that which is here present. In the last place, what do you say? The last place you'd ever expect to find it. Right here in the form of something so common. So here's the thing. Let's not be intimidated or afraid of reigniting our imagination. Let's understand that the mystery that we're stepping into with Advent is something that's going to draw us out and draw out of us a sense of wonder and awe. And if it doesn't, then you've just become too adult. You haven't maintained the imagination of men like C.S. Lewis. The imagination of C.S. Lewis, which allowed him to create epic dramas. And so this is the invitation of Advent. Come back to the mystery. Come back to a renewed sense of that the God of the universe, when he started to reveal this, he's inviting us into his adventure, just like the shepherds. He's saying to you, good news, but here's the thing: there's a sign. There's a treasure hidden. It's hidden. God's holiness is hidden right here in our midst. So that's the first message I have the first of our devotional messages for Advent. We'll do it again tomorrow morning. Feel free to leave any comments, and I look forward to seeing you again this time tomorrow morning. Take care. Bye now.